what is your finished tile height going to be compared to whatever your finished floor height is in that 9 out of 10 times it's going to be a hallway.
All right. How are you doing today, Todd?
Doing good.
Yeah?
Welcome
back.
Very well. Yeah, thank you.
Welcome back, sir.
Thank you. It's nice to be back. It's nice.
Nice to be seen.
Sure is.
All right. So, how you been? What's going on? Anything exciting?
But yeah, a lot exciting. Exciting.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, fill me in. What's going on?
I'm trimming the fat around here. I had I let
Yeah?
I'm going
What's that
employeeless. I'm going employeeless is what that means, which is
really
probably a separate conversation. I don't know. I don't want to get into the weeds on that because that wasn't the topic of discussion. But that is a route I am currently going.
Yeah. I have a lot of questions. So
I'm sure you do.
I'm going to reserve this to say this is a great topic. I think we should talk about this next week.
Yeah, this could be a separate topic, but that's news for sure, but separate topic. Yeah.
All right, big news. Wow. All right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to.
There's the teaser for next week. Tune in.
Stay tuned next week.
Suspense.
Yeah, there's our hook. Yep.
It's like watching The Sopranos.
Like, why did you decide to get rid of all your employees, and how are you going to move forward, and what is that going to look like, and what came about? I'm sure this wasn't an easy decision for you.
No, okay. Definitely not.
Yeah. All right. We'll answer all of those next week. So now you have to listen to our boring segment this week to get through.
Not boring, super useful topic.
That's right.
Especially these days.
Yeah, nothing's really going on here for me. This week's been chill. We're still doing cabinets on a project. The little bit of millwork has started in the bathroom upstairs. And yeah, we're just plowing through. We had countertop templating. So that's fun, interesting. There's a lot kind of going on with templating and a lot going on with our project, right? It's kind of pretty detail oriented. We have a lot of countertops. The countertop material is also being used for the backsplash. So we have a lot of that need to be finalized. Inside corners, outside corners, whatever the radius is, all of that. So it's kind of cool. Here I got a little picture. I'll try to share with you this picture of what my guy uses to do this. He uses this little machine that's hooked to a wire, and he goes around and he points and hits a couple points everywhere along the countertop.
Yep.
And that will digitally lay out 2D on that little screen there.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of cool. He was there we have a lot of countertops and a lot of stuff going on, but he got there at 10 o'clock and in the morning. He didn't even start templating until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That's how many details we had to go over with the homeowner.
Was he hanging out in a truck at the park?
No.
He was not hanging. Oh, okay.
Too soon.
Yeah. All right.
If you guys haven't heard that story.
Sorry.
Yeah. Go back and listen to.
There's a lot of stuff to hang out at the park.
Hijacked, or my project was held on ransom.
But
so we went through a lot of that.
Many details.
Yeah, we did.
Before he even mapped that out. That's great.
Yeah, that's great. There's a lot going on.
Good. So that's good to hear. Actually,
so that was a big milestone to get that moving.
Yeah,
next step.
And that's not an inexpensive leg of the journey. The countertops are expensive, so good.
Yeah.
Kudos to them.
I think we have a total of
front.
Yeah, I think we had a total of five slabs, I think, for this project picked out. Anyways, so that's what's going on.
Okay. What are these 5
Pretty
slabs?
Exciting.
Quartzite, granite? Porcelain?
Marble.
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 Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you definitely want to pick your slabs carefully. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we did. You're right.
Cool.
Yep. All right. Well, that's me.
All right.
And that's what's going on with me. And we're going to pick your brain next week on what's going on with you. But in the meantime, you are stuck with us on another week of the Renovation Situation podcast here, where we pull back the layers of this complex remodeling industry. So grab your beverage and let's get down to business. What are we talking about today, Todd?
Curbless showers.
Curbless showers. Cool.
Yes. They're all the rage. All the kids are talking about it these days.
All the rage.
Yeah,
I kind of feel like I
think it was on Spotify.
We've had a little pullback on curbless showers. I feel like everybody wanted one, kind of like linear drains too. Everybody wanted a linear drain. Everybody wanted a curbless drain, and now people are been a little bit more responsive to kind of the problems with linear drains and all that. So we've been seeing a comeback of this good old center drain and curb. So I'm happy about that, but let's get into this curbless. What do you got for us today?
So this actually came up. A client had asked us. I did not bring this up. This is a part of a larger project we were doing, which is a whole kitchen, laundry room renovation, some upgrades in a basement, and then turning a powder room into a full bathroom. The idea of turning a powder room into the full bathroom was simply an aging in place idea. It's on the first floor. They do not have a full bathroom on the first floor. They have 2 full bathrooms on the second floor and another full bathroom in the basement. But the first floor only had a powder room. However, they do have a guest room there. So the idea was they're older. Their kids are grown, but they have grandkids on the way. They don't plan on moving. So the subject of aging in place came up. They don't want to move, but they're not getting any younger. So how do we make this bathroom, this powder room, turning this into a full bathroom? How do we do this in the best way possible? So you can institute, of course, things like grab bars, those little odds and ends, those little aging in place details. But certainly one of them that came up was the curbless shower. So in doing this and having this conversation, we had said what was key to them was they had a typical 3/4 inch hardwood floor in the hallway right there. And she did not want to see any sort of transition piece that was going to change that floor height, right? So I said, okay, this is going to take a little bit of math. So anyone who's doing these, they take a little bit of pre-engineering. It takes some forethought to see where you can locate your drain. What is your finished tile height going to be compared to whatever your finished floor height is in that 9 out of 10 times it's going to be a hallway, right? So getting all that to line up took a little bit of doing, but what happens is we use our Curdy tray. It's a prefab tray. We did a center drain on that. We took the subfloor in the shower area out and dropped that flush to the top of the joists as opposed to on top of the joists. So that's going to save you 3/4 of an inch right there. Our tray went right into that. And then we had Schluter Ditra XL on the subfloor. And by the time you're tiled and all said and done, you are seamless going from curbless shower to 3/4 of an inch finished height to match up with your hardwood floor in the hallway. So that's where we're at.
Interesting. You used the Ditra XL.
I did.
Just because you wanted some extra depth. You needed to lift your floor up a little.
The reason we did that, actually, I can show you why we did that and maybe kind of work backwards. But the reason we did that is originally they were going to do a 12 by 24 tile, and they decided to do a 2 by 2 tile on the entire bathroom floor. Which, if you're going to do a 2 by 2 tile, as you know, you don't need a lot of thin set in order to do that, right?
So you wouldn't want to do the Ditra XL then on the 2 by 2s.
No, we did want to do it because you're going to use.
You mean 2 foot by 2 foot?
No,
not 2 inches by 2 inches.
2 inches by 2 inch is what we were doing.
2 inch by 2 inches.
Correct. The entire bathroom floor and shower floor. And this is probably not the best picture. Are you seeing this right now?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a lot of rosin paper, unfortunately, but this is all 2 by 2. Can you see my mouse too when I move the mouse on there? Oh, that's cool. That's nice. I got a pointer. So all 2x2 tiles on, 12x12 mesh. But this was essentially right where that you see that rosin paper layout. That's where our Curdy tray was. This Curdy tray has a center drain right here built into it. That drain starts at 3/4 of an inch. And any drain in a Schluter tray, according to tech support, starts at 3/4 of an inch. And that goes from 3/4 to an inch and an eighth at this edge. So since this was an inch and an eighth, that Ditra XL helped us get that higher level that we wanted so that we could match that up and have a seamless transition right here. So because we're doing 2x2 mosaic, we don't need build up and thin set, right? You just want that perfectly flat, which he kind of screeded that and did his thing.
Yep.
To get a nice flat
How did
surface.
the threshold work out at the hallway if you wanted to inch and an eighth?
Perfect. We're at 3/4. We're at 3/4 of an inch. If anything, we're like a 16th above that 3/4 of an inch. And like I had said to my client,
okay,
they're still going to have a transition there. It's just going to be a flush transition, but they can always put a tiny little strip under that to build that up, sand it, plane it, whatever. But we're within a 16th of an inch of where they want to be. So I was pretty happy about that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there is a lot of math that goes in to make sure that your heights all work out. So when you're thinking about a linear drain, a curbless entry, there's a lot of math that has to go on ahead of time. And there's a lot of things to consider. And sometimes you can't really know your exact depths of things until you kind of get into it. Like, for instance, if your floor is out of level, how bad is the floor out of level and in what direction? And are we going to do a self-leveler? And what's that depth going to turn out to be once we are done with the self-leveling? And then we're going to build on top of that from there. There's a lot to consider.
There is a lot to consider.
You brought up some depths of your pan.
Yes.
And you were at inch and an eighth. You were using Schluter, right?
Yes.
So
the
Schluter
tray
has two different pan depths. And here again is part of the math. And I'm gonna share my screen here. And we're gonna take a look at some Schluter pans, kind of give you an idea of what we're talking about. So Schluter has what they call a thin perimeter height, specifically for curbless showers. So if you know ahead of time you're going to do a curbless shower, make sure you get the thin option.
Yeah, I think it's called the
if I scroll up here
or something.
Yeah. You'll notice that these trays, they just have the single T on the end of their part number, and they are a little bit thicker. So depending on the layout of your shower, the width and the length, whether it's a 48 by 60 or 72 by 72, 60 by 60, whatever it is, you're going to want to look at these, the thickness depths when you get out all the way to the end.
Yes.
To the perimeter.
Yes.
So
absolutely. Key number right there. Yeah. And
so when you're looking at
60, the shower I just showed you was a 60.
It was a 60 by 60?
No, it was a 60 by like 30. We ended up being like 32, 34.
Okay. Yeah, another thing is cool about these is that you can cut them to length. You get a little bit bigger and then you cut it to what you need it to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
And super easy to install.
You wanted a 60 by 38, right? Something like that, you said?
Yeah, it was I think it might have been a 60 by, I think it was a 60 by 38.
There's the 60 by 38 right here. And there you go. Inch and an eighth.
That's it. Yeah. And what's key with that, I actually had originally, in talking to my client, had asked them where they wanted the drain, which I should not have asked them, because she wanted it on the She wanted it on the far wall, which would have been, if you're looking at that top left picture you had right there, Joe, the
Yeah.
right in the
This
center
one?
there. Yeah. So if you
Yeah.
were looking at that top left one right there, and you were to take that center drain all the way to the left, that's what she wanted. She wanted a linear drain that was going to be on like the far wall if you were walking into the shower. So it'd be on the 5 foot length side, but the far side, and wanted a linear drain. And I said, no,
Okay.
we can't do that. And she said, well, why? They make one like that. I said, yeah, but that means that the beginning edge is now over 2 inches high. So I said, now we're not going to meet our hallway flooring height. We're going to be up way too high.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty funny back and forth because the inspector was there the same day, and she's like, can I call the inspector? Because I don't understand why I can't do this. And I'm like, this has nothing to do with the inspector at all.
Right.
This is just an odd coincidence. He was here, and, we were talking about this at the same time, but it has nothing to do with the inspector.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
See, the thin option, when I was saying with the double T's
yes,
for curbless shower, they don't have your size that you were looking for.
right. Because you need to maintain a certain pitch for drainage, right? So you just can't get that out of a 60. Yeah.
Right. Right.
So that's your best starting point. What you have pulled up right now, if you're doing a curbless shower, this is probably your best starting point. See what prefab trays are available and kind of work backwards off of that,
So these are the Schluter pans. We also, I think if you've been listening to us, everybody knows that Todd and I enjoy the Schluter system. However, out here in the Pacific Northwest, they do like their hydro block. So just in the spirit of bringing that on board, hydro block also has two different thicknesses. They have the thin, what they call the low profile shower pans. So if you're thinking about that, you want to take a look. I think all of them are 1 inch for hydro block, which is nice. I don't know how they manage that, but everything is always 1 inch with their low profile ones. So that's pretty nice.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah. So just keep that in mind, that when we're talking about math, we need to think these things ahead and try to figure out where the drain's going to be, how far from the drain to the entry of the shower. That's going to give us an idea of what that height is going to be and whether we need to take out the subfloor underneath where the shower is going to go. Yes. Back in the day when these curbless shower things came out and everybody wanted to put them in, people were actually cutting 2 inches out of the top of the floor joists. You remember that?
Yes.
Man, yes, so bad. They're literally cutting framing out. But that was back before we had these thin options. So that was kind of the only way you can do it sometimes. The correct way at that point was, if you did need to go down even further than 3/4 of an inch, you could still cut the top of the joists if you needed to, but then you need to sister those joists up. And you need to start talking about structural engineering and making sure that we can support that load. So I do not suggest that. Matter of fact, I won't do it. Not anymore. There's no reason. We can figure out another way.
Yes.
But I got another thing to show you guys. Todd was talking about how he lowered the subfloor down 3/4 of an inch. How do you do that?
I'll show you a picture.
Okay, show us a picture.
And go ahead, but I'll share this picture while you're
awesome
explaining.
Schluter has a suggestion on how to do it, and which looks like it's the way Todd did it, which is nice. So what you're doing here is you rip up the subfloor, which is usually 3/4 of an inch plywood, or sometimes in an older house they're 3/4 of an inch 1-bys, kind of, sometimes mostly on angles. They're usually on an angle, and they're like 1x6s all on an angle. what you would do here, and he has a solid floor joist, which means his floor joist is a solid piece of wood, probably a 2x8 or a 2x6. That might be a 2x6
it was
there.
Actually it was actually 2x10s.
2x10s.
Yeah, it was actually 2x10 floor joist. Yeah,
angle
which
was nice. Camera.
Yeah.
So cool, 2x10s. So he's got plenty of room to play in there. So what he's going to do is Schluter suggests that you take a 2x4 and you just make a box that's 3/4 of an inch lower, and you just screw that to your floor joists.
Yep. That's exactly what we did.
That's what you did?
Screwed and glued, and all this has construction adhesive in it. All recessed, slightly countersunk screws as far as the plywood is concerned. I don't think that was that important, but you're putting a tray above it, so I didn't want anything potentially cutting into that at any capacity. So we had our center drain. We had that all lowered in there, screwed and glued, and then plywood cut right into it. Everything was nice and flush, and we were fortunate that this floor joist system was actually already level in the shower area, so we didn't have any concerns having build that up or add any tapered furring strips or anything like that. It was already nice and level, so that was certainly nice.
Cool, nice. Now, what do you do if you're in a newer home and you're trying to do this and you have eye joists?
It's a good freaking question. I don't know.
Good freaking question. Well, I'll tell you what, HydroBlock actually has an answer for you. It's pretty sweet. Let me share my screen again and show you guys what I'm talking about. Here's the Schluter picture. Well, before I show you the HydroBlock with the eye joists, I just got a little graphic here that I wanted to show you guys before we get off of the Schluter system. But here's, you can kind of see exactly what Todd did. He built this 2x4 3/4 of an inch lower on the full joist, and then he dropped the plywood in between them. All right, so moving on to the HydroBlock system, on what do you do if you have a floor joist or an eye joist for your subfloor or for your framing? So they have these brackets. So even if you're not using the HydroBlock system, I would suggest, this is pretty cool. I would suggest buying this so you can just lay it right on top, screws down on top, and hangs down perfectly at where you need it to be for a 2x4.
That's
Boom,
pretty
done.
nifty.
Yeah.
I like that.
And you could use this with the other system too. It doesn't need to be an eye joist. I mean, you could still use it with a traditional 2x10.
Yeah, sure. You're just screwing it in through the top, right? I like to just set depth already, right? It's automatically set. You're consistent. Done. Clearly, those are, like anything that's engineered like that, they're more than rated for whatever capacity they're holding. So, that's a cool system.
So there you go. Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool when I saw that. So there you go. That's how we would lower a shower subfloor, so we can gain 3/4 of an inch to work with.
Mm-hmm. Makes a huge difference.
Yeah, huge difference.
And hopefully by the time this goes on, I have finished pictures of what this actually looks like. In the meantime,
you're not quite done yet.
Yeah, not quite done. We're super close, but in the meantime, this is what this would look like. For those of you who just want to see what a curbless shower looks like, it's literally just that, right? We're just eliminating that step up. This was an aging in place idea at first, so you can wheelchair accessible, ADA compliance, that kind of stuff is what this stemmed from. But of course, like anything, it gets to be aesthetic as well. I had no part in this. This was not I didn't do this because I would never do whatever the hell this is. Ugly half tile detail here. I would never have done that. So disclaimer there, but what we're concentrating on is just this part, right?
The
They
floor.
built a
Yeah.
curb on the ceiling instead of a curb on the curb on the floor. Anyway,
Funny.
that's the goal here. That's what we're achieving.
So that's the idea. That's the plan.
Yeah.
I want to go to the next step though. I want to geek out here. So let's help everybody out there realize how difficult planning this curbless shower plan can be.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm thinking is, let's go through a scenario and let's actually do the math real time here and see if we can screw it up. And at least we can then see what our height's going to be and what we need to do to make it happen. Or at least, the idea here is really just to find out where your finished floor is going to be. Right? And then you kind of have to figure out, okay, if this is where my finished floor is going to be at, like, let's say the hallway when you walk out the door, what's that threshold going to look like? Right? We can kind of plan for that ahead of time. And then also, what's the threshold going to be walking into the shower? Because if you are going to add out into the bathroom, that's going to help you with the shower. So then maybe you don't need to lower the subfloor in the shower.
Mm-hmm.
And so you want to do all this math before you start just hacking away, right?
Yes.
All right. So we're going to actually try to do some math in real time here, and really going to probably hate ourselves for doing it. Okay. All right. Can you see this clearly and well? Okay. So we have a finished floor calculator. Very crude, guys. I just threw this together literally while we were talking here. So here on the left is some of the things that we need to think about, right? So we're going to start with the subfloor. Those are usually 3/4 of an inch. Because we're starting and we're going to go on top of the subfloor, that's going to be our starting level. So we're not going to put any dimension there. That's where we're starting from. But we have things like...
any engineers, sorry to interrupt, if there's any engineers watching this, we do realize that 3/4 of an inch subfloor is actually 23-30 seconds. So we're getting very specific. We're getting super specific here. So if any engineers are watching, yes, we fully realize it says 23-30 seconds. It's not actually 3/4, even though it measures within a 30-second of it. But whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
Disclaimer.
No, totally true. And that's a good disclaimer to throw out there, is these are all going to be rounded numbers, because in real life, things swell, things shrink, things go up, things go down, and nothing's perfectly level. And when we're trying to build a bathroom floor, we often go for flat, not so much level. Okay, so all the things, underlayment, and this is all in order on how this is going to get put together. So you're going to start with your subfloor, and we're going to build on top of that. And now this is not in the shower. We're just concentrating on the bathroom floor right now. So you're going to do, or you can do, I'm just going to quickly read them off. Underlayment, then the self-leveler, then some thin set for your Ditra. Or you can be doing Ditra heat if you are going to heat the floor. You also then put thin set on top of that, and now your tile goes down. And that's going to be your total height. So let's walk through this. Subfloor, as we stated, 0. We're going to build off of that. Underlayment. We don't know what kind of underlayment we need yet. We kind of need to work everything else out. And then we come back to the top and enter in what our underlayment is going to be. But when we're building this, underlayment is going to be the first thing that goes down. And by underlayment, this is what I mean. We could use a piece of plywood. We could use Durock, which is cement board. We could use fiberboard. It doesn't really matter because we are going the extra step and we're going to make sure that we're going to put Ditra down, which is an uncoupling membrane from Schluter that for us and Todd, no matter what we're doing under that Ditra, we are going to always put Ditra under our tile. I don't care where we're at or what we're doing. Ditra's got to be there. So because of that, we don't really care too much what's under Ditra because we know Ditra's going to, we know we can chemically bond to whatever's going to be there, whether it's concrete, wood, fiber, cement, doesn't matter. We're going to thin set 2 of that, and we know it works.
Yes.
So underlayment, whether that's plywood or not, that's what we're going to come back to, whatever that might be or might not be. And then self-leveler. Another problem with self-leveler is at this point, we need to wait until we demo everything out of that bathroom, get down to the original subfloor to find out how wonky this floor really is. Once we put some levels across, we're going to figure out how unlevel it is. The current bathroom that I'm working in now that we just finished, I was 7/8 of an inch off from one side of the bathroom to the other. 7/8 from one to the other. That's a lot.
Yes,
that is a lot. Thank God it was going in the wrong direction. So that meant that my high point was right where my threshold was. So that meant no self-leveler was going to go there, which is beautiful because that's what I want. That's the height I want. I just didn't want to add any more height than I needed. However, I needed to add 7/8 of an inch in theory of self-leveler to the other side, which was going to be really close to my shower. So that meant that my shower threshold walking into the shower and from the floor's going to already be 7/8 of an inch taller there than what it is currently. So you can already see that in this scenario, there's a chance that I might not even need to rip up the subfloor if I was going to do a curbless shower. Hopefully this is all making sense. Mm-hmm. Once we figure out how much self-leveler we need to put down, and in a lot of cases, you don't have to if it's close enough to being flat and level. But sometimes you need to put self-leveler down. So let's just assume that we're not putting any self-leveler down to make this look and go fairly simply. That thin set that's going to go under Ditra, that really goes down with an 1/8 inch trawl-ish. I think it's like a 11/64s technically.
Yeah, it's a strange
whatever
increment.
The
it's
hell
a goofy
that
fraction.
Number is. Yeah,
it's
whatever.
Yeah, it's a goofy fraction, and they do have their own. It actually has the label on it. It says Ditra. They have a Ditra trowel.
They do.
If you take
and I do have one
certification, they give you one. But that's more or less it's an 1/8 of an inch, like you said.
It is an 1/8 of an inch, but here's what's happening. We're going to put a 1/16. It gets squished, you guys. Yeah. So a lot of times when I'm on the fly trying to figure out the floor, I don't even consider that thin set at all. But in the spirit of putting something there, let's put something there. Ditra is an 1/8 of an inch.
Unless you're doing Ditra
heat. Ditra heat is 1/4 of an inch. What is Ditra XL?
I want to say it's 5/16.
Is it? I believe it's 5/16. I've never actually used XL.
It is the same exact product as regular Ditra, but the only idea of it was simply this. It was just that it was going to give you a little bit thicker substrate in the event that you needed to achieve a bigger floor height. Bigger floor height,
yeah. I've never actually used it. You wouldn't use both of these.
It is 5/16.
It's 5/16.
It's 5/16 thick. It's the same exact thing as a Ditra. It's just 5/16 as opposed to an 1/8.
All right.
Yeah.
So here you would
in this
pick
scenario, like I said, we were doing 2 inch by 2 inch tiles on mesh backing. So you're not putting down a giant mortar bed for that, for 2x2 tiles. You don't need it.
Right. Right. Yeah. Okay. You would choose which one of these you're going to use. You're not going to use all three. So whichever one, but we'll put the heights there. And then you're going to put thin set on top of your Ditra, depending on the tile that you're using. That's where this is going to come in at. If you're using a very big tile, large platform tile, that thin set's going to be thicker. If you're using smaller tiles, that thin set's going to be very, very thin. So depending on what you're using is going to depend on how much thin set's going down. You kind of need to know that.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of experience. And also you could look at the bag of thin set often tells you what trowel size you should be using with what type of size tiles. And then the thickness of the tile. Now, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be 3/8 of an inch thickness of your tile. If you have something smaller than 3/8 of an inch, you have bought not good quality tile. If it's thicker, then chances are it's either real material, like real stone. It's a natural stone, thank you. Or we're starting to talk about big platform size tiles, and sometimes those will start to get thicker too.
Yes.
So this is what's going on. You have to figure out all of these, add these all up, figure out which one you're going to use. So let's just say that we are just doing a normal we need a 1/4 inch thin set because that's mostly what we usually do for the most part. And this is, of course, we need to know what type of tile. I don't know how to spell porcelain. Help.
There's an A before the I. You're right
so there. If the tile is porcelain, your thin set or your underlayment you don't need it. If your tile is natural stone, then your underlayment needs to be an additional 1/2 inch. Because you need to build up the sturdiness of your floor before you go and put down a natural stone. Otherwise, there's a chance that it will crack. So you need to kind of know. Let's just assume that we're doing porcelain tile. So we don't have to put anything there. But let's say that you have the 1x6s that are on an angle. So you have holes in between and everything. That's really not great to throw Ditra on top of. You probably should put down at least a 1/4 inch. Don't know what happened there. You should do at least a 1/4 inch subfloor there. Right? Are you agreeing with all this?
Yep.
So if you add this all up, I don't know, what are you at? 1/2 inch, 3/8. You're just shy. You're 1/16th shy of 1 inch, you guys. So there you go. So that's what we're kind of falling back on. All right. Yeah. Now we know that we're going to be 1 inch taller than our subfloor. And so now you can go and say, well, crap. If we have a 3/4 inch floor out in the hallway, we're going to be a 1/4 inch too tall. Mm-hmm. Now, can we get rid of this underlayment? Do we need self-leveler?
Right.
All of these are questions.
Underlayment in the hallway.
If you're not,
if you're redoing,
if you have the ability to do that,
yeah, just as an option. It's just the idea of thinking.
And I've done that. Yeah, we had the 1x6s on an angle, so we needed to put something down, and we were also doing heat, so that meant that Now we are starting at a quarter there instead. And we needed to put underlayment down. We needed to Dietrich heat.
Yeah.
We were using porcelain, and we didn't need to self-level, so that was good. So we were kind of at a point where we were going to be kind of tall. So what was that? I don't remember. So that's half and a half. So we were going to be 1 16th over. I think in the end we were even taller than that. So what we did was we ended up putting down underlayment on the whole first floor. And then it matched up perfectly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is, I mean, and remember that, like, the reason we're talking about all this is the idea that people hate floor height differences, right? People don't want to see tapered thresholds and, you know, built up, you know, trip hazard thresholds. You know, they're all too common through a lot of, let's call them DIY or inexperienced remodelers, possibly, that would just, yeah, we can just go right over this. Yeah, we build this, and then just tapered transition and tapered threshold, and it looks awful. People hate these things. So when we're doing all that math up front, we're doing it to achieve a nice uniform finished floor height throughout that same floor. One other thing I do need to mention, and not to get, I don't want to get into this, but just because we tend to heavily endorse Schluter products here,
they
do offer a ramp as well, which would be kind of like the inverse of what we're doing, right? So if you had that curdy tray that was built up a little high, they do offer a ramp that would go from that tray very slightly down to the subfloor. And that may go out, I'm not sure how far they go out, to be honest, maybe 2 feet or so. But that's going to, so if you were 1/4 inch too high, maybe you're going 1/4 inch down to nothing on such a slow decline that you don't even feel it walking into the space, you know? Just saying, that's something they also offer, all in prefab, you know, materials. So
yeah.
It's a lot of options out there. Just do the upfront work, and you'll be patting yourself on the back when you're done, you know?
Yeah. Well, if you guys made it this far and you didn't fall asleep through all those numbers, you guys didn't
make it this far.
I was starting to glass over myself. Yeah. All right, everyone. Cheers. Good luck with your curbless shower plans.
Cheers.